you very much for joining us today, guys. I'm Emily Craven, the digital producer here at QWC, and today we're talking to the lovely Tiana Templeman. Now, Tiana is a Brisbane-based author, freelance writer, and a corporate trainer. So she reviews for the Gourmet Traveller Restaurant Guide and writes for diverse markets like the Weekend Australian, South China Morning Post, and the Australian Traveller. So thank you so much for joining us, Tiana.
A pleasure.
You are an absolutely lovely and amazing travel writer and are giving a course up in Cairns in about a month, aren't you?
That's right, and I'm really looking forward to it because it's such a beautiful part of the world, and I'm sure there are so many great stories up there.
Well, I wanted to ask you a little bit about writing travel narratives, because a lot of people have this very firm view of what travel writing is, you know, that it's the Lonely Planet style of travel writing, but that's not true. There are different types of travel writing, aren't there?
There are, and I think the great thing about writing travel memoir or travel narrative is the fact that it's not just an opportunity to show people a place that you're visiting. So with a travel article or a guidebook, it's usually quite factual and it's have a look at this and have a look at that and go here and go there. But a good travel memoir can do that as well. So it can showcase a destination, but it's also a more personal journey as well. So it's an opportunity, I guess, to almost go on a bit of a virtual trip with someone and take a journey with them as they set out, not just to discover a destination, but a lot of the time there's a little bit more to it as well. So there's some kind of internal quest or some reason that they're going on a journey, and it can be a great experience to actually pick up a book and go travelling with someone when they're on an adventure like that.
When we talk about things like, writing for fiction and whatnot, there's sort of like that one path to publication, you know, the ultimatum, which is the book. But with travel writing, you have freelance travel writing, you've got travel novels, and then you also have things like travel blogs.
That's right, and there's lots of different opportunities to explore your creativity as a writer. So, you know, travel blogs give you an example to write in a very first-person style. So it's generally very personal, and it's written in the first person, and it's quite observational as well. So a lot of the time with the travel blogs, they're a very first-hand look from that person on their particular travel experiences. But with the travel memoir, a lot of the time that you don't, say if you went on a trip that you had a great time and you're away for a while, you don't even necessarily need to write a memoir about that whole trip. You could actually write a memoir just about, say, 2 weeks that you spent in a destination that was particularly significant, provided you've got enough material there to actually get enough words out of it. So it offers a lot of flexibility for exploring your creativity. And then you've got guidebooks as well, or even online guides, which is sort of a little bit more factual, a little bit more of a go-to place if you want information.
And what category would things like travel magazines, like you find on the aeroplanes and stuff, what would that fall under?
More traditional news media. So they're short stories. It's definitely journalism. Some pictorial journalism if they're quite photo heavy, but that would be travel journalism rather than memoir. Although a lot of the articles in those in-flight magazines are first-person narrative-style articles. So they're not actually a narrative, but they are a narrative-style article. So that first-person experience once again.
You're talking about in your course up in Cairns about writing travel narrative, you know, not just the factual stuff, the stuff that has, you know, that personal element as part of it. And I was wondering if you could give us your, I suppose, top tips for writing and absorbing travel narrative.
Okay, so I think the key to a good travel narrative is to have a sympathetic central character. So in a way, it's interesting when you're writing a travel memoir or a travel narrative. You are a central character and you are the main character. You are who you are and it's completely factual. But you are also a character in a sense, in the same way that a character is in a fiction book. So you need to be able to display the qualities of yourself and give some insight for the readers as to what you're going through and how you're feeling and how that destination is affecting you. So definitely one tip I'd say is to let yourself shine through, to actually give the readers a little bit of yourself, even if it's a bit uncomfortable sometimes. I know I find it hard writing about myself, but it really makes your book richer. The other thing is to have Some facts and some interesting information sprinkled through your narrative. So make it not like a travel guidebook, but make sure there's some interesting facts about the destination in there for your readers to enjoy so they get a deeper understanding of the destination through your eyes when you're writing. And last but certainly not least, I'd actually say try to use a little bit of humour if you can, even if it's quite a serious quest or journey. Try to put little bits of humour in there to make it interesting, to keep people engaged.
The one thing I always wonder about travel is because, it's about place a lot of the time. It's about you as a central character and place. And I was just wondering if you could perhaps give maybe some tips or like maybe a short exercise someone could do about how they could help them capture the essence of a place.
Well, there's a really great exercise you can do that if you think about somewhere you know well. So maybe not your hometown, but somewhere you've been, and use the five senses to describe that. So bringing the five senses into your work and into your writing will add a great deal of depth. A lot of the time we focus when it comes to the five senses on what we can see, so on sight, but the smells as well, what we're feeling, what we're touching, how we feel. To write a descriptive piece of about 300 words using the five senses to describe what it is that you're seeing or a particular destination, that can be a great exercise, and to challenge yourself to actually include all five, if you can, in that piece of description. You'll see the richness it can bring to your writing.
There was one other thing that I was wondering, which was, how do you kind of like avoid a travel narrative from becoming a memoir?
Well, I guess the sort of alternative name for travel narrative is travel memoir, because it generally is a personal journey of some kind. And I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing if it has a memoir element to it. But I think that there has to be a point, probably sounds a bit harsh, but there has to be a point to a travel narrative. So just reading a story about visiting a destination is a little bit boring because it doesn't have enough of a narrative arc. So travel memoir, even though that's what they're called in the industry, they're called a travel narrative as well because there's generally a narrative thread running through there. So even though it's a memoir about someone's personal experience when they travelled, it's also got to have a narrative arc running through it. So it has to have some sort of quest or some sort of thing that's trying to be achieved. And then at the end of the story, it's resolved, or there's some resolution to the problems that the people were having, or the reason that they were travelling to that destination in the first place. Now, example of that is Eat, Pray, Love. I mean, the sort of searching for spiritual fulfillment, that sort of looking, and she eventually finds that. In my book, it was a classic tale of a fish out of water. So these backpackers staying in these beautiful five-star hotels and feeling terribly uncomfortable until they realised that really they just needed to be themselves. And once that they just acted like themselves and relaxed and enjoyed the experience, it was much better for them. So there does have to be a narrative kind of arc running through a story, even if it does have a memoir kind of element to it.
Well, thank you so much for everything you've given us, Tiana. I wanted to end the interview by asking you what is the best way for a wannabe travel writer to get started?
Oh, definitely keep a notebook. Having notes is so helpful. You forget so much of what you see and do, even from the time when you first get back. I've always kept a travel diary. I've got travel diaries from my very first trip overseas I did when I was 18, which are hilarious to read now. They're all about boys, but they also can provide a lot of useful information. I was even reading a diary that I'd written about a trip I did in 1997, which is a little while ago, but not that long ago. And there were so many things in it I had completely forgotten, even a couple of destinations that I had completely forgotten that I visited. And when I read the diary, I was like, oh, that's right. I remember that now. And it brought it all back. So keeping a diary, I don't keep a diary, especially now I'm working as a professional writer. My travel diaries are no longer I did this and I did that and like a dear diary, but there are lots of notes and observations. Not so much facts and figures because you can find that out later by research, but observations, that sense of place, being able to capture that while you're on the road makes writing a lot easier when you get back.
Because you can use the senses in the moment.
That's right, because the senses in the moment are the things that make her travel narrative really good, and they're the things that are the hardest when you come home and are sitting in front of your computer and writing to recapture. And when you've got them written down, it's almost like a ticket to take yourself back to that time and place and recreate it on the page.
Thank you so much for Tiana. That was wonderful.
A pleasure.